Most people overcomplicate real estate, but guess what? There are certain fundamentals that you should always follow. I've cracked the code. You're about to watch a video of me speaking to the War Room, which is a military investor group. And I did a Real Estate 101 presentation, and it is all about the fundamentals. And guess what? Experts never not do the fundamentals. And so at the end of that, I'm going to be giving my $1 million advice. By the way, my name's Hugh, if this is your first time here, and I scaled from 0 to a millionaire in 15 months and 0 to 287 units in 22 months. And now I'm retired a millionaire, and now I just help my friends do the same thing. So I'm gonna be giving the advice that I wish I knew when I started. Guys, enjoy. My name's Hugh, and Dave specifically said, don't get on stage and talk about how you're a piece of human garbage. So I won't do that this morning, even if it may or may not be true. It's a little bit intimidating to get in front of everybody and speak, especially this group. You've got everyone from brand new folks all the way to extremely sophisticated investors. And I know I'm gonna be going over Real Estate 101. So I'm gonna give you guys, when I didn't know anything about real estate, the most intimidating part was not knowing what I didn't know. And so I'm going to be sharing, hopefully exposing the ideas to you, and you can go do the research on your own later. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So a little bit about myself is I'm an operations lord. I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. My background is I'm a process engineer. I went to school for IT. Afterwards, I went into manufacturing. Well, I went to the private sector for IT for about 8 years, and then I went into manufacturing. And I then took that skill set and applied it to real estate, and that's my unfair advantage. When I was in manufacturing, I ran a $52 million international manufacturing company across 11 time zones, or however many time zones there are. And it was a huge pain, but picked up a whole bunch of skill sets. For those of you who don't know, manufacturers have a horrible margin, like 1% to 2% margins most of the time. And so they have extremely sophisticated systems and processes to prevent them from going bankrupt. And so that's my background, right? That's the way I started. This is the vanity metrics. So scale from 0 to 287 doors in 22 months. All 100% owned, no syndications. And that's everything from hotels, apartment complexes. Started with 26 crack houses, not 29 crack houses. That was my first house. I never even had a primary residence before then. No experience, no core 4, all that jazz. And also I retired a millionaire in 15 months. So then I recently founded Business Wealth Blueprint, and I just help my friends unfuck their businesses. We basically go around and teach business owners how to do operations. And then when they get their time and money back, I show them how to invest that to build generational wealth with ease. So most people are a slave to their business. And if you're in real estate, by the way, you are in business. It's not an asset, it's business. Okay, a little bit about me. My Venn diagram is basically business operations, and my weapon is something called lean, which I'm very, very good at, and real estate. That's my primary investment vehicle, though I do have others. So this is, I'm not the most educated in the room by far. I'm often not the most capitalized. I'm not the most nimble. My team and I are not the most nimble, but we generally will dominate. We suspiciously find ourselves in situations where we are in front of the rest of the pack. We usually will outcompete most of the people in the room because of our systems and processes. So all I do is I scale teams of people who are awesome because I, like Dave, am not detail-oriented. Is it just luck? Yeah, it's luck, but we make our own, right? Seneca's definition, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, and we just spend all day preparing all the time, right? That's what the military does. Every day you're training, right? You're training, and then when shit hits the fan, you're prepared to seize opportunities. So that's all it is. We just follow basic fundamentals. So today's roadmap is gonna be, I'm gonna talk about a little bit about what investments are, then some basic tactics. I'm gonna give you $1 million advice, $1 million plus advice. And then we'll open up to Q&As. So, all right. Introduction, who's this for? It's for beginners, aspiring investors, current investors, anyone who's interested in financial freedom. So hopefully there's some tidbits of things in here. There are a lot of advanced real estate folks that are in here. So try to provide some value there as well. But and I'm also going to be judged on the advice I do give. So hopefully that helps out. Okay, so what is an investor? This is from Robert Kiyosaki, the Cahflow Quadrant. And these are basically the very, very base level tenets, right, of what things are. So the first thing is employee. You have a job, right? You trade your time for money, right? There's a little time symbol for money symbol. The next step is you own a job. That's becoming self-employed. Right? So that is going to be you now are Bob's Mowing. Well, Bob's Mowing's got to go mow every day. If Bob stops mowing, the money stops coming in. So he still trades time for money, but it's just significantly more, right? The next step is going to be owning a business. This is where you have systems and processes. Other people trade their time for money, but you trade those systems and processes for money. And that's the first time you own an asset, right? If you have a business. By the way, if you can't step away from your business for 60 days and your business is still there, then you don't have a business, you have a job. And the last one is investor. So an investor turns money into more money. And generally, on one side of the curb, you have people who tend to be more poor, not poor, but poor thinking, right? That's the hustle, that's the grind. And then on the other side, you tend to have people, be more wealthy. And so wealthier people generally own assets of some kind. And if you just trade your time for money, doesn't matter how much money you make, there's an extremely unlikely likelihood, even if you're a doctor or a lawyer or something, that you will be rich one day or wealthy. So that's the very, very baseline. And so why invest in real estate? There's steady cash flow. Usually it's predictable. Property appreciation. So you buy something for 100 grand, it'll go up. Diversification of investments, right? So if you have S&P 500 index, people are all freaking out about what the stock market's doing right now. Allegedly, I really haven't paid attention. Why? Because I've got Bitcoin, of course. So, but even if you only have real estate, right? It's very hyper local, so it's block for block. I'm in the Midwest primarily, and so then there's tax benefits and deductions. I'll probably end up paying taxes in the future, but right now I don't, and that's directly because of real estate. And then leverage is another fancy word for debt. So I often don't use my own money to acquire most of the things that I have. My original 26 portfolio of crack houses that I bought that were very dilapidated and not taken care of have been turned mostly, and I've already burged them out, which you'll learn about if you don't already know in a little bit. I've pulled all the equity out 3 times already, so they don't cash flow very well. But I've pulled all the money out, and now I'm going to bundle them up and sell them and carry the debt. So a lot of things you can do because it's an asset. So real quick before we get into real estate, if you are looking to a mechanic and you're like, hey, mechanic, how do I fix a car? That's kind of a very strange question to ask, right? Well, what kind of car, right? Is it a reliable Toyota? Because then you don't really need to fix very much. Is it a fancy car, right? Is it a piece of garbage? Who knows? Also, outside of what kind of car, what's wrong with it, right? Is it an engine problem? Is it something with tires or suspension? Or are you longingly staring at a screw or bolt, right? So that's kind of the way real estate is. By the way, I'm not a mechanic, so I don't know anything about cars. But there's so many ways to approach real estate, and so many people in the room do so much. So the value is, really after the presentations. So we're there. So we're going to go into the basics now.
Business owners, are you aware that I have a newsletter down below in the description, and it is full of all the tactics and stuff that if I put it on YouTube, I will be demonetized. It is a weekly newsletter that will go out and talking to you guys about the things that will help you and us, our businesses, stay ahead. If you're interested, check the link, click the link below. Now back to the video.
First one I'm going to get into is flipping. You guys have all seen chip and joint gains, right? Buying, renovating it, and selling it for profit. In my opinion, flipping is not investing. It is owning a job. You're on that that left side of the equation. Why? Because you bear all the risk, you take all the, you spend the money to hold it, you're in there renovating, and then when you sell, the government says, hey, appreciate that, that was inventory, you now owe us full rent for taxes. So flipping is that. You find undervalued properties and you just kind of try to fix them up. So that'll come down to your skill set, right? Do you have a lot of money, right? There's someone in the room right now that I've talked to before. They have a very lucrative paying job in the medical field, and they have the ability to make, I can't remember, I think it was like $200 an hour or something. And it's going to be worth it more for them to just pick up overtime, because when they pick up overtime, they're going to make more money in a day than it's going to cost them to go swing the hammer, even though they could swing the hammer. So what are your skill sets, right? If you're going to engage in flipping, know that it's a job. It can be a very lucrative job, but you bear a lot of risk. And then, are you running a team? Are you going to do it yourself? These are all questions you need to ask, right? Have you done this before? So kind of going from that. All right, next one is buy and hold. Long-term properties for passive income. So this is where I fall in the category. A lot of us kind of have a bigger pockets background. They're going to lean more towards this. This is, in my opinion, investing, because you're going to buy and hold for long term, and it'll continue to pay. That could be turnkey. We're going to get into some easy ways. You're going to learn a lot about VA loans here in a second. But yeah, so buy and hold, it's the same thing. I prefer to flip and hold, which is the BRRRR strategy. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But effectively, it's still buying properties, forcing the appreciation, not waiting for the properties that just go up in value, but making them go up in value. And then I'll go to a bank and get my money back. How to analyze a rental property. So the 1% rule is a quick screening method. Unless you're in the Midwest, this is pretty much dead. And in the Midwest, it's becoming more and more hard. The real number is 0.8%. This means that if you're going to buy a property for $100,000, can it make you $100,000 in rent? That is a very quick way to determine if it is going to bankrupt you or not, right? If you're living in San Diego or Denver or something like that, DC, you're probably never going to find something like this unless you're going to go midterm or short-term rental. In the Midwest, this is true. Around Tennessee, probably still true. You can find it. 0.8% rule. Really, if you buy that $100,000 property, can it rent for $800 is the real number based on most market rents of properties that we can, or most interest rates that we can get right now. Next one is cash on cash returns, is measuring the profitability. So how much money you put into it, right? How did you buy it? And then what's the return on that? The cap rate is going to be a lot more valuable, a lot more used when you come to commercial real estate. But this is if you didn't have a loan against it, what would the profitability be? And then expenses to consider. There's something called the 50% rule. So if you get rent, assume 50% of that rent is going to be gone before the loan. It's just standard expenses. If it's a newer property, it might be less. If it's an older property, like I own a whole bunch of properties from the 1890s into the 1930s and 50s, pretty much anything before 1970s, for me personally, in our market, they have a very high, we're like 55% expenses just because old houses have old house problems. My 1970s stuff, my 1990s and 80s stuff, they are more like 30%. So now that I have more money, I'm going after better, nicer, newer properties. House hacking. House hacking, you guys are going to hear a lot about, especially with VA loans. You'll learn a little more about that, but it's basically going to be living in a property, renting other parts of it out. Triplexes, duplexes, and single family homes. And quadplexes. That is a picture of an 18-unit apartment complex. Not exactly sure why it's up there. But one of the big things in the United States specifically, we have access to is the United States goes to great lengths to make sure that our citizens can buy properties for themselves as a single family home. The number for that is 4 units or below is considered a single family home and residential, and the government will back loans. We're one of the only countries, I think we are the only country who has generally 30-year amortizations that are fixed. Most other countries are maybe the 30-year, a lot of 25-year, and they have ARMs. Don't worry about the debt stuff. Just know it kind of sucks by comparison. But you basically buy a duplex, move into one side, let the other side pay. The more you go, if you can deal with the uncomfortability, right? Harder to do if you have a wife and kids, is buying a fourplex. Move into one of the units, right? Usually the larger amount that you have, the less risk there is, in that if you live in a single family house and you move out of that single family house and you rent it, the likelihood that your single family house goes vacant during your time of owning it is probably 100%. If you live in a duplex and you move out, you have two sides that could go vacant at the same time, which would be bad for your pocketbook, and that is still pretty high. If you live in a fourplex, the likelihood that all 4 units are vacant is probably significantly lower. Now, you're gonna have to do your own due diligence on, is that something that you can actually make profitable and work? You guys have to do that research on your own. But house hacking is a very big one. There is somebody who's formerly Air Force in here, and they are going to be looking at buying something like a 16 or 16-plex. They're not going to be house hacking. They get no benefits, but why not, right? If you're going to buy an asset, why not move into it and fix it up, right? And so you don't have to do this for just the good debt. You can do this to larger units as well. Okay, next one's the BRRRR method. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Building wealth through forced appreciation. So similar to flipping, you're going to buy and you're going to flip. Or buy, flip it and hold. And basically, if I think something's worth 100 grand, I'm going to try my best to pick it up for $30,000, $50,000. I might put $50,000 into it. But at the end, I'll have a shiny, nice new property, hopefully less headaches, less issues, but then I'm going to keep it, right? I'm going to make sure there's a new roof, make sure there's a new water heater. I'm going to get rid of the galvanized plumbing because it will have an issue, not if it has an issue. It will have an issue at some point. Then we're going to have a nice property that doesn't have issues or shouldn't have issues, and then we're going to rent it out. Approach a bank, say, hey, bank, check out this awesome property that I have, and I would like to get a loan against it. They say, cool, we think it's worth 150 grand. Here's 120 grand. Away you go. I've got my money back. I'm going to go do it again. You need to be careful. Make sure you don't pull all your cash flow out to make it go cash flow negative, right? Usually you're not going to get rich from rent. Usually rent is there to play defense so you don't lose your properties, right? My properties have appreciated in value quite a bit, but my cash flow, because I keep pulling the money out to go buy more properties, is very low or break even. Make sure you are aware of that and are intentionally making decisions around that. Don't just violently go scale for scaling's sake. Make sure you have some thought. Or good members on your team to be like, hey, Hugh, you're losing your ass. So there's that. And then you go do it again. So yesterday there was a great example. Some people I was talking to last night, they live in a $850,000 place. They need 200 grand to go buy some Airbnbs. They could refinance, not all of it, because they don't need all of it. Refinance 200 grand, right? I think it'll be $1,600 a month for their note. They can then take that and start and go take down a property. If they want to BRRRR it, force appreciation, great. They could also go buy a turnkey property somewhere. But it's all in cash, right? In cash, they got the cash from their house. They can then fix it up, finish it, go to the bank, get it appraised, they get their money back, they then go do it again with the same money. So they're just recycling the same dollars over and over again. And this is the primary method that I operate. Last one is lending. So you don't have to actually get directly into real estate. There's many ways that you can get in by lending money out. So one is hard money. You can become bridge debt for somebody or lend to some people for short term. So for instance, I'll lend to my contractor because I taught my contractor how to invest in real estate. And my contractor will borrow, let's say he's going to go take down that same $100,000 property. Well, I'm going to charge him $1,000 a month. He's going to get 100 grand to go renovate. He's going to pay me $1,000 a month for 2 months, 3 months. Then he's going to refinance. He's going to have all the money back to pay me back. He may or may be negative, not sure, probably close to break even or more because he doesn't have to pay for himself. He just has to pay for the materials. And then so for $3,000, he basically, $3,000 of not his money. He paid $3,000 of his money. He used someone else's money and he now owns the property outright. It's done. Not outright, but he owns it with a bank. Another one's joint ventures. You can, if you have never done a deal before, there's a lot of experienced operators here that have done a deal. You might say, listen, I'm too busy, right? I'm deploying in April. How about I just give you money and we'll partner on this deal? So that is also an option. Be careful who you get into business with. That is can go very wrong. So just know who you're doing that. Self-directed IRAs and solo 401ks. Talk to Hema about those. But you can basically lend. So instead of having money in the stock market, you can bring it to yourself. Back up one. You can bring it to yourself, not directly, but through different custodians. And you can lend money to yourself, and you can lend money to other people and charge returns, and they got to pay you back. So a lot of people, you could do this. Actually, I'll get to that slide later. Next one is syndications. There's a few syndicators in here right now. Syndications, you give money to general partners and they'll go take down a property. This property was taken down that way from what I understand, where people jumped in, they lent, they used that, they raised the capital to purchase the initial property and to do the renovations, and then everybody's happy hunky-dory from what I understand. Oh look, here it goes. And then you can mix and blend it all together. So even this property, even though it was a syndication, my team ended up giving a bridge loan because they needed the money to come to closing and they needed it for like 2 weeks. And so we were able to assist with that. So you can blend a lot of these things together. Financing your investment. Where do you get money? A lot of people that are brand new are super stressed out about where am I going to find money. Hey, how about I start flipping so I can generate some money? Hey, how about I start wholesaling so I can generate some money? You don't necessarily need to do that. It's not a bad idea. I would encourage some sort of, well, not necessarily encourage, but I would burr or flip a few properties if you wanted to, but that's mainly for the academic education of taking something from really bad to in pretty good state so you can learn from it. But if the deal's good enough, then money will appear, especially with this room of people right here. A lot of you, again, I think it was Adit was saying it, they needed 600 grand, right? Even to take down the lodge, they needed money and they needed it by noon. And it was, I think 9 a.m. when I got the call. So money will appear if the deal is good enough, right? So don't stress. I'm going to go over some high level ways you can do that here. So you can get conventional loans versus portfolio loans. This is what a lot of people talk about, and when they edge into the territory of strategies and they're really excited about, they're talking about government-backed, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac-backed loans that are 30-year fixed. There's a lot of red tape to jump through because most banks don't hang on to those. They then sell that debt later. You can get portfolio loans. So this is from banks as well. The portfolio loans means that it's a portfolio they keep in-house. They don't sell the debt on the back end. And so usually local lenders are very good with that, and local lenders are going to generally be better to work with than any national entities, right? Hard money and private lenders. Who in this room has money to lend? Wait, can you raise your hands again? A little bit higher. Cool. Everybody look around. Yeah. Who needs money and who wants money? Yeah. Congratulations, that's a hard money or a private lender, right? There's seller financing and creative strategies. I love creative strategies. Dave talked about one earlier, which was, he bought a house for $0 because the dude wanted 38 grand. He said, how about I just pay you? Let me buy the house for $0. I'm going to flip it. I'll sell it. I'll pay you from the proceeds. That's creative finance. It's the Wild Wild West. You can negotiate whatever you want, basically. And then there's HELOCs and partnership funding. So HELOCs are going to be home equity lines of credit. Take a second mortgage out. as well. Home equity line of credit is like a fancy credit card, but it's backed by your house. There's a lot of strategies around that as well, but you pull the money out, you can use it to renovate. You got to figure out a way to pay it back. So hopefully whatever you're doing, flipping or burring, you're going to get your money back out because you're going to have to figure out a different way to pay off. You're going to have to figure out a way to pay your money back. A lot of friends, some that were in this room, right when interest rates flipped, not necessarily on HELOCs because they're fixed for 5 years, I believe. They were just on commercial lines of credit and they started getting hit hard with interest and they were in danger of losing a lot of their properties and very hard work that they've been working on for many years because they dealt with lines of credit. So be careful if you're going to go that route. So there's many, many ways to get money. Seller financing can be and has been in the past many creative strategies. It's their own presentation. So we won't get too far into it. It's one of my favorite ways. Now we're going to go into who you need on your team. So if who's brand new, doesn't know too much about real estate. Cool. So there's something called the Core 4. I did not coin the phrase. It's from Bigger Pockets, from what I understand. You need an agent, lender, property manager, and contractor. Real estate is really, really weird. A lot of you guys are in the military, or were in the military, and you're used to working with teams and on teams and directing people to accomplish various tasks. Congratulations. There are whole industries out there that all they do is this stuff for you. And if you have these 4 people or 4 people that are trusted, then you can engage in real estate investing without really doing much if you want to. Agents find you the deals, lenders lend you the money to find you the deals, property managers, in my opinion, I use property managers, that's why I could scale. I could not scale if I only had 2 or 3 homes, right? I do not like self-managing, it's a personal preference. And so I have a property manager, after I'm done with the flip or the burr, I'm going to pass it to my PM, they're gonna take it from there. And of course the contractor renovates everything. If you don't know where to find them, you should go to a local real estate meetup where you're at. Go find a Bigger Pockets one. If you don't have one, go look for Pints and Properties. Pretty much most real estate investors that are in your local area are happy to share everybody that's on this list except for their contractor. I'm probably gonna not give you their contractor's name. So, Core 4, if you have these guys, then that's all you really truly need to actually start. Right? What gave me the confidence, having 0 experience in real estate, no team, no anything, to just jump in and start, was that I was used to managing teams and people, right? From my manufacturing company, right? 350 people, I only have to manage 4 people here. And so I was able to start while I was a normal W-2 guy, working in manufacturing, waking up, hating my life. This can't be it for the rest of my life. I was able to start investing because all I needed was to find somebody else with the experience. And what do you know? There's 4 industries designed specifically for that for us. Cool. $1 million advice. This advice has made me a very large amount of money and probably much more than $1 million by now. At the end, I'll conclude with a book to read, and it's the cheat code of how I got so successful. The first one, you guys actually have already heard this and the analogy suspiciously. Be careful who you get advice from. Have a clear goal in mind, right? Dan this morning just talked about goals. What's your goal? If your goal is to have Airbnbs and fly your plane all over the world to the Airbnbs that you own because of whatever reasons you decide, then I would start with the end goal in mind. Don't think, oh, I'm going to start flipping because I need money to go after the goal. Just go, if you can narrow it down, go after your goal and pick a good goal that accomplishes your why. Then seek advice from people who have done it before. So here's the best intentions versus experience. This is the exact same analogy that Dave gave earlier. If you want to be a UFC fighter, don't get advice from your mom. Hire an MMA coach, right? So both may have your best intentions, but one's going to have done it before you. Right? Again, for whatever reason, real estate, absolutely. And I'm working with a 21-year-old investor right now who bought a crack duplex that he's currently flipping in Springfield, Missouri, and his parents are all freaked out. They're all against him, and they don't have any experience in owning real estate except for their own house, and they're just terrified on his behalf. Well, he's crushing it, right? So, have they done what you want? Are they at your goal? If they're at your goal, or they're at least walking down the path, make sure that you ask the advice from the people who have gone that way before you. And also take their advice with a grain of salt, because they're not you. All right, next one. The Inverstor Core 4. But most agents are garbage. Who's an agent in here? Most agents are garbage. Most lenders are garbage. Most contractors are garbage. Most property managers are garbage. Almost everyone sucks. And that's actually just a fact of life, not just in real estate investing. Most of them are garbage for investors. It's our job, armed with knowledge and connections with the people in this room, who are going to outcompete everybody else who's competing with you. Make sure when you get your Core 4 that you get an Investor Core 4. People that are used to working with investors. They're the ones with the connections. Most agents don't like working with investors because we're going to send them to a $20,000 crack house and they're going to make $1,400, right? And they'd rather work for their forever home and that's $300,000 or $500,000. Most lenders, they're real skittish about following laws and stuff. Contractors, this is why most investors won't share their contractors with you. If they found a good one, they're going to hoard them and try to keep them busy so they're happy. And most property managers, I think we burned through like 6, and then, because David Green's property manager book says get 2 and pit them against each other. Well, everyone sucked in town. We just found the good one, and we just put all our eggs into one basket. And you watch the basket. I think Rockefeller said, put all your eggs in one basket and watch that basket closely. So make sure you have investor-friendly Core 4s. Treat it like a business, right? Successful people never not do the basics, right? Usually if I've gotten hurt, it's because I got sloppy. I was like, you know what? I've worked with you before. I trust you. Successful people never not do the basics. Don't half-ass it. Whole-ass it the first time. I've learned this on many flips. Go in, I could, it's an old tired house. I could cosmetic only. And then you're just plagued with problems. It would not have been that much more to just gut it and fix all the major systems. Oh, but that's way more work and it's going to be 2 months instead of 1 month. Well, cool. Well, now I'm going to pay for it for the next 5 years dealing with that. My background is building and scaling teams, intrinsically understand how to problem solve and set up systems and processes that are self-healing. Systems and processes are what are going to save you. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall back to your highest level of preparation, always. And most people who flounder, most mom and pops that we get a buy from, a lot of them don't have systems and processes. A lot of them were tired, right? I don't know the story on who the previous owners of the hotel here were, but I can tell you the previous hotels that we've bought in the past. It was a couple. They bought it in their 30s or 40s or 50s. Now they're in their 70s and they're still doing everything. They're doing all the maintenance. They don't have a computer. They proudly declare they don't have a website. They have no systems and processes. So make sure you treat stuff like a business, scale, have systems and processes. All right, next point of advice, one of my favorites, people. Real estate is a very small place. Word gets around, there's many people in our market that we won't work with ever again. And if you want those names, if you're investing in Springfield, come to me of who not to work for or with. You never know who you're currently in front of are gonna come back around. People will remember you. Do what you say, even if you don't legally have to. This is a big point on integrity. Real estate specifically is a very, very unusual space in that everybody tends to know everybody. Everybody who's successful can end you and make sure everybody knows not to do business with you. Be careful who you piss off. That's a very, very big deal. Even if you don't have to legally have to do what you say, I would do it anyways. Usually, if you treat everybody with good faith, what will end up happening is people like you and they bring you good deals, and then you bring them good deals and you provide a lot of value to each other and blah, 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 blah. A lot of people who are scheming and are just very, very upfront and trying to weasel their way through everything, those people usually get burnt out and don't really make it that far. All right, platinum rule. So the platinum rule, there's a golden rule. The platinum rule is think of others. Treat others how they want to be treated. All right, so think of the other person or business. This is a very big one. Treat others how they want to be treated. Systems and processes. You can systematize it to treat other people that way. Here's an example. When I go to my core 4, I think of my contractor. I'm not trying to squeeze my contractor out of every dime. And in fact, I've told my contractor, you can't charge me that. You have to charge me more because we're not going to get very far if you don't eat. I go to the lenders. I'm continuously, and this is a rule that, this is a phrase that Dane coined, trying to shove value up their ass, where I'm bringing other investors. Shovel value, sorry, shovel, like coal, right in there with a hatch, open. Treat others how they want to be treated. If it's your agent, bring them referrals, right? Let everybody know. If it's a lender, bring people with you, right? Hey, did you know Jim? By the way, Jim lends on this property. You want this? Here's this. Oh, you're in Texas or you're in Florida? Let me call Albert for you. Albert's going to hook you up, right? Just provide value. Think of the other person. If you can make other people money, and this is a quote, I don't have it up, but millionaires know how to make money. Billionaires know how to make other people money. So if you can think, how do I provide other people in my core 4 value, then you're probably going to make a lot of money along the way. Action this day. The Germans were doing stuff in the 30s, and he was like, hey, guys, we don't take action. There's not going to be much around. So this was his famous, we'll fight them in the air and the seas until the last person falls speech that he gave that basically got the world to actually do something. So taking action, and I didn't say take massive action, by the way, but we fail fast and fail often. You'll learn more by doing and failing than planning, which terrifies my team. But taking an action is more important than what action you take. It's a very big deal. So every single day, I try to fail 50 to 60 times trying stuff. Those who know me the best can confirm this. I'm always trying to try something, and when it doesn't work, I will learn. If you're not failing, you're not trying, right? And that's one of the ways that we are able to outcompete most of the people that we compete against. And it's because even though they're smarter and more educated and more, we got the missile silo because we hit the market. We then drove starting at 5 a.m. out there and then signed the deal that we typed up on the way on a laptop in the back of the truck on a mobile hotspot. And right before we got there, someone from California flew their private jet back to their group of investors to present. And we got the deal. Why? Because we took action first, right? They had to go present to a committee to get it approved, right? Always make the offer, you can back out later. And so take action. Don't take massive action. Right? You don't have to go, I'm going to leverage my house and then I'm going to go start flipping or whatever it is. But taking that step towards what your goal is a big deal. And we're missing a slide, and the slide that we're missing is there's a book, and that book is called 2 Second Lean. It's available for free on YouTube. If I ever am a billionaire one day, it's going to be because of that book. And it's all about systems, scaling teams, building a team of people who have critical thinking skills and an owner mindset. They can independently operate from you. So that was going to be the book I plugged. Does anyone have any questions?
You said 2 Second Team?
2 Second Lean. Yeah, it's a manufacturing book, and it's by Paul Akers. It's not even a business book. Well, it's kind of a business book. But there's a very manufacturing flavor in it. Just read past it because any organization can use it. I know it was applied to our artillery brigade, and they brought their fire times down from 12 minutes to 7 seconds to return fire support. Of course, that person left because he PCS'd, and everything reverted back to the way it was before when they left, if you can imagine that. But again, 2 Second Lean.
Tell us about the silo.
The silo. Silo is an Atlas Class F missile silo in Kansas. Most silos had their tubes destroyed because of a treaty we signed with the Soviets or the Russians, can't remember, it was in the 90s. And most had the missile containing portion imploded. Ours was so old, they couldn't fire missiles from the tubes. So they're the only ones that I'm aware of that can be purchased that still have the tubes intact. It's in Kansas. We are currently renovating it. We're going to be hosting events. It's going to be an Airbnb/event conference. It'll be a single unit to rent. So it'd be more like if you guys want to bring your leadership teams out, that's kind of what we're going to go with. We're going to be hosting our own conferences and events there soon too. So yeah. The crack houses. The first deal I ever had was 26 crack houses. And I had just finished reading the book and reading, all the Bigger Pockets books. The way I got into real estate is I was going to buy solar panels. And this dude, and I was helping him with lean, trying to help his business. And the guy came back and he was like, he won the bid. And I was like, what should I do with my money? And if it was you, he said, I wouldn't buy my solar panels. I would buy real estate and use that to pay for your electricity. I said, that's really weird. He said, go check out Burr on YouTube. So I listened from episode 1 of the Bigger Pockets podcast on YouTube at 2x speed, 3 hours a night. So I did 6 episodes per night and then 4 hours a day on the weekends. And I got caught up to episode 300. And they were like, take action, take action, take action, take action, take action. Trust the numbers and the math. Math on the 26 crack houses said that I'll probably be fine and figure it out. Didn't have a core 4. So that was August, September. I formed an LLC, started making offers, got offers denied. And on the 30th of the 30th of December, 2019, I bought a portfolio of 26 crack houses. That's actually how I met Dave, because
was not a tenant.
I met Dave at a coffee shop and was like, hey man, what do you think about this? I have no experience. And he was like, no. I'm not gonna tell you no, but don't trust the numbers. So I basically did the Burr strategy. I bought it the same way. I think it was like, they wanted like $1.7 million. We went back and forth. We came back down to $1.1 million for 26 single family houses. I then bought them. I did not know. It was my investor friendly agent was like, hey, why don't you try to buy the whole portfolio? Because I was looking at a single house in there. And I said, can I do that? What do you mean? Right? I didn't have a group like this. Didn't have people that could help or lend. And so I did the dumb thing, which was I liquidated my stock portfolio, was supposed to pay taxes on that, used that as a down payment and said, well, I have till April to figure that out. And so I bought the properties and I started burring them. Came with 5 vacancies. And I think it was 26 houses. Initially, it was pulling in like $9,000 or something in rent. And it should have been able to pull $13,000, $14,000 at the time for market rents if I could figure it out. So I just bought it based on the math and figured hopefully I'm not completely screwed. That was how I got the very first thing I bought was 26 crack houses.
2 questions. One is what type of manufacturing, like what was the product that you were working in? And then what sorts of processes did you bring over? Was it like checklists or what was it that really translated into real estate?
That's a great question. So the first question was what kind of manufacturing? We made and manufactured boat seats. My father founded Springfield Marine in 1952. There are 4 companies that make the parts that connect a boat to the seat of the boat. And we are one of those 4 companies in the world. And then there's a mutiny that happened in the second company in the world. We trained them. They were all of our top guys. So that is what we did. What I brought over was from the 2-Second Lean book. It was the culture building aspect. People, for whatever reason, tend to not give a shit about culture when it comes to a monetary perspective, when it comes to their companies. They don't put a value on it. The culture is why I'm successful. We're able to outcompete everybody because my entire staff, all they do is independently, critically think and solve problems every day on a very, very small scale because we fail often and fast. And over long periods of time, they develop that muscle. And every single day, they're practicing that over and over and over and over. So when a real problem happens, they already have that experience on how to critically think and problem solve. So I just shot a podcast episode with Marty. You guys know Marty Tyler. 2 days ago about when the Midwest had the Snowmageddon. We had critical failures that happened that we weren't even aware of because the team solved them before we even knew that they were a thing, which most people are like, oh, I wish I had a team like that. Oh, but I'm also not going to do anything about my culture or anything like that. So basically it's a team building. Jed. YouTube channel. If you go to the Let's Connect, it should be there, but it's HughCarnahan.com. Oh, it's not working. Oh, it's HughCarnahan.com. Well, HughCarnahan.com, I have free resources and stuff, but there is a YouTube channel. It's just Hugh Carnahan.
I want to ask you about kind of your mindset that gravitated for you to buy that large portfolio. You know, us as veterans, we're kind of leaning towards the VA loan, right? And
yeah.
Sometimes, you know, that's not a baby step. Sometimes that's a first step, but you made that jump into something that's bigger. What was that? What was that kind of bridged that for you?
I was too stupid to know any better. No, I mean, I made most of the mistakes. I got the worst. I blew right past the good debt that everybody had. I didn't have a room like this. It worked out great for me, but that's somewhere between luck and market at the time. Over and over and over, if you listen to OG to middle, bigger pockets, maybe like episode 0 to 300, those are all really, really good. They'll tell you buying, you know, taking action and trusting the numbers. If the numbers make sense, take your emotion out of it. And so I was terrified, but I said, okay, much smarter people than me state that I should trust the numbers and take my emotion out. So I'm just going to trust that they know what they're doing and that I'm going to just take that advice. So I jumped in and now not much. So yeah, and that's the reason I do recommend you if you have the chance and it's fiscally feasible, I would go and I would flip 5 crack houses, because by the time you're done with those 5 or Burham, whatever, you're going to have a very, very good sense of all the things that can go horribly wrong and how to deal with them. And so nothing really scares you or bothers you anymore, right? I think we're like up to like 12 dead bodies or something. Ask Dane about the dead kitten house. Yeah. Bucket of dead kittens.
You said earlier that you and your team make like 50 to 60 tiny mistakes every day. Like,
that's just me personally.
Okay. Give examples, please. Because I'm sure the examples in your life are way different than all of the ones that came into my mind for me.
Okay. So tons of examples would be, so they're micro mistakes, really, really small things. So like I put a label on something and see if it worked out or not. I would, like this morning, I gave a fake email. So I wasn't on the drip campaign for the Wi-Fi password. And then I just tested to see if that worked, and it did work. So I'm just constantly making really, really small errors. I might just try to wiggle something and try to walk into somewhere, whether I'm supposed to or not. I had a button that was off, and so I just ripped it off, and then I got the button from down here and just started sewing it on. And I had actually removed one of the buttons from the front instead of the extra buttons they give you on the back of the shirts. So like those kind of examples. But I learned that and took action almost instantaneously, and I hit the problem and solved the problem almost immediately, as opposed to planning and, oh, I got to take this to a tailor and I'm going to wait till I get home. Just do it. Problems to be solved constantly, right? The team will practice stuff. Hey, I'm going to move this printer over here to save me 3 steps. Okay, well, this works in 80% of the cases, but 20% of the cases it actually is worse. So now I'm going to get a second printer. Some little tiny stuff like that.
Sorry. So they're not necessarily so much mistakes as like attempts at problem solving.
Correct.
Okay.
But you're continuously trying to solve a problem where everybody else will plan and look at, it's like NASA versus SpaceX. NASA's got super duper billions of dollars and they're like, oh, we got Artemis, whatever, and we're going to send this thing out. And they still haven't, and it's still a big pain. And SpaceX is like, let's blow a bunch of shit up. We're going to send a rocket off because we think it's going to work, or we know it's not going to. What are we going to learn from it? And then they do, and it blows up, and they have sensors, and they're like, okay, let's build another one. And 3 months later, they send